Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Levine Show. This is a special one for you because we're doing a pre-record. Why? Because we got time zones to deal with, and we're dealing with and having a conversation with somebody on the other side of the world, basically. So, thank you very much for making sure that you join us and share this out because this is a special one. Not just because of the time zone thing, it's because it's about MK Ultra. This is a subject I haven't spoken about on the show before, up to now, at least not directly and intentionally. It pops up every once in a while in certain conversations about, we're talking about Montreal and some of the things that happen there and the US and some of the secrets and, how the government interferes with things in various ways with and without consent. We had this whole consent issue for a few years. Well, MK Ultra is one of those issues that absolutely had the consent issue pop up. Informed consent. Are you knowing what's going on? Are you an experiment? Do you participate willingly or not? And then what is it? We always heard about MK Ultra. There's people that come out of it. There's some sort of triggers, some special words. Like I've really started to cursory look at this, and this is the first episode on this subject. So I'm going to be coming in very green and asking questions like, what is it? Who was it intended for? What are some of the effects that it had? Do we have injuries? Are people going to be okay? And going down those conversations because I care. I want to know what really happened. And if there's a way to recover from it, do we have to understand this? Is this something that government should be involved in and be aware of? Do we need to try and stop it? Like these are questions that I have because eventually I hope to be in that House of Commons and doing things like trying to protect Canadians. And if some Canadians were harmed and hurt and continue to be harmed or hurt related to projects that happened way before even I was born, I should learn about it. So this is my kind of series, and what I'm going to be doing is going to be several episodes about MK Ultra specifically as I'm making my way through this maze because it's all very new to me. And I hope that what you understand and learn from this is some little nuggets that help you understand it as well. I was touched and honored that just before we got this recording started, I had a conversation with our guest. And he let me know that, hey, I pick up nuggets from your show, little pieces of the puzzle, and it starts to come together and it helps. I didn't intend to do that with this show. That wasn't my purpose. I didn't realize that by sharing this stuff out there was going to help people in that way. What I was trying to do was just learn, and then share as I'm learning. If I'm going to have the conversation, I may as well let a couple hundred people or a few thousand people join in on it. But to hear that it's actually helping people in various ways, like, hey, that's the piece I was missing, and it helped me understand something. Because these are truth seekers, whistleblowers, truth seekers, same class of people. They're looking for truth, want to share truth, and they're really doing it in a couple ways sometimes. Help themselves understand, and also to help others understand. And then maybe collectively, we can help others avoid this, and maybe even repair some of the damage that may have been done. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in Dr. Etienne Buchannan. And this is his first podcast exposing this, having this conversation. And this is a privilege and honor. And I am very touched. Good day. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am good. And I'm excited and nervous at the same time because I suspect there's going to be some things that are going to shake me a little bit in my core. And
I don't know.
We'll see, right? Because I'm curious, like, what were they doing? Who was hurt? And what kind of outcome or potential future do some people have that's related to this? I'm nervous, but I think we can do something good here. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as comfortable as you are with that, and we'll get started.
Well, my real name is Stephen. I was born in Montreal. I obtained my PhD from the University of Western Ontario a long time ago. And after what happened to Canada, I decided to emigrate and start life again in another place.
Okay. You certainly don't need to go any further than that with us. I'm really glad to hear that you've started another journey and it was the right path for you. Did you feel that Canada was not safe for you, or it just wasn't a place for you anymore?
It certainly wasn't safe for me, in the sense that as a university professor, which I was at the University of Western Ontario, during the COVID crisis, I was fired. Why? I didn't do anything wrong. My employment record is blank. And what happened is I refused a therapeutic.
Be there.
and I was disposed of as as a facial tissue. And so after that, I thought, and I, of course, there's more that happened before that. I've seen a number of things happening with universities that really dismayed me, and but that was the last straw on the camel back, as the saying goes. And
Mhm.
I thought, well, maybe it's time to do something else, because there was also a problem with freedom of speech at the time, and still today, even a bit more today. There's a number of problems with free speech in Canada. I remember Bill C-63 trying to make it in, still in the Senate now. The the Parliament is prorogued. We don't know exactly what's going on, but I decided to leave. I thought this was very unsafe for me, very unsafe for me and the people I love. So what I did is I took the people I love and we went somewhere else.
Well, I'm glad that you're in a place that's safe for you, and I'm glad that you got the people you love with you. It's a loss to Canada when we lose talent and brains like you, but maybe we can attract you back one day by dealing with some of these problems. I do want to update you on one thing. Singh has come out today, and he has mentioned that he doesn't think it's a time for an election. So it
Mhm.
looks like they're going to be coming back and getting back to business. He acknowledged that there's some more laws that are needed to protect and safeguard Canadians. He could be
We read,
talking about Bill 63. He could be talking about that again.
yeah, we read the same tweet.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. But I think what we might see is Canadians are going to be surprised at what can come back from a prorogue government, what can happen when a couple parties get together. And we might be at this shenanigans for a little bit longer. So
Yes,
that's unfortunate. But
yes.
what we're going to do is, if you don't mind, can you take me back as far back as you want to go to when it comes to the MK Ultra side of things? Because I'm very curious of what was going on in Montreal and what you can share with us from that time.
Well, I don't know much about MK Ultra. I know much about the experience that I have in Canada about governments not working really for us,
Okay.
and it took time for me to realize all this. That uh, how could I say that? For example, uh, geopolitical issues are certainly not about you and me, right? All
No,
you want to
not the
do is to
individuals.
all you want to do is to feed your family, given the means that you can do that, given the means that you live in a place where the economy allows you to live and everything else. But what we've seen over the decades is just a degradation of that capability. It's really hard right now for some Canadians, not all, but certainly for some, to make ends meet. And while we have billions to give to places like the Ukraine and other programs that don't sound really intelligent, what we have is a destruction of I would say the middle class, and it's getting to be a problem. If you look around the world and you look at countries that don't have a middle class, that's where you have a really big problem in
Right.
general, politically, economically, and otherwise.
Okay, so what we'll have a conversation a bit about is the deterioration of Canada and some of the reasons why
I
it
would be
doesn't
more
seem to
comfortable
be.
talking about that because I don't know much about MK Ultra other than it's another program that existed and probably still does. I don't know that doesn't work. That it doesn't have you in mind, does it?
Okay, no, fair enough. So that would be an interesting conversation to continue to have about how is it that governments create programs, fund programs, initiate and execute programs that doesn't have our benefit or any benefit to Canadians. So more experimental and possibly damaging types of programs. And what we
Right.
saw here with COVID were multiple of those, like lockdown, narrative, working with the media, create fear, create division in families and community. Those would all
Yes.
be considered little programs by the government, provincial,
Yes.
federal, even municipal. Were doing this,
Yes. I
and
think
this.
it leads to this. It leads to this. what we've seen, at least in my understanding of things, is that programs such as that, MK Ultra or others, uh, were well hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, nobody was talking about that except renegades like us, maybe. But now it's all in the open. And I think a number of reasons are the cause of that. For example, COVID. I think a lot was exposed during that time, and that large subsets of the population in many countries have discovered that their governments are not really working for them at all. And what's the end result of that? Well, it's hurting people, right? I'm fortunate enough, I can say that right now. I'm fortunate enough not to have kids. I got fired. And the thing that disturbs me is the thought that if I did have kids, what would have happened to them given my decision?
Wow. And the decision to speak up is what you're concerned about? Is and then
I was
standing
concerned
up.
about it. I've seen what happened to people who talked. Tamara Lynch and so many others. I mean, my head is full of their names, but it doesn't come to mind easily like that. There's hundreds. And you've seen what happened to them. You've seen grandmothers with their bank account frozen because they funded the trucker convoy, that kind of stuff. And I've seen it as a tragedy for Canada. I mean, you remember when the map of donors was published on the internet, and so of donors to the convoy, and then people who didn't agree with you could come knock at your door and menace you with whatever they wanted.
Yeah, and we saw people like the CBC take that list and then like cross-reference it with other lists and then call out people and say, hey, if you're part of this police organization and this donor list, let's call you out. And it became a
Yes,
very strong tool that was used in media to go after specific people and specific functions.
yes, exactly. And what was amazing during that time when this happened, the convoy and everything else, is that uh, very few, pardon the expression, but very few normies saw what was going on with the CBC. It wasn't there. And when it was, they were depicted as well. The list of the names they were called is just endless, and the result is now, even today, you still have a Canadian population. Most of them, not all, evidently, but most of them captured by an ideology that came from their very own government.
Well, when we're born, the indoctrination starts to trust your government. And when you're watching cartoons, the police are the heroes and the firemen and women are the heroes. And then you're
Yes.
trusting that mayor who's trying to save you, that monster. And these are all cartoons. So you start very early trusting and believing that there's this group of people who have your best interest in mind. They're there to protect you against unknowns or scary things like this monster coming into town. But then when you start to grow up a little bit and learn, first, you go through this transition of understanding, well, maybe they're not there all the time that I need them.
That's
Then you
right.
start learning that maybe they're not there when I need them. And then you start learning that, wait a minute, maybe they're there to harm me. Some of their decisions actually hurt me. And then you kind of move a little bit further and you're like, holy smokes, they do a lot of things that hurt me. And then you start to wonder, what is this now? Now, what is this? That's the transition you're talking about, the progression.
Yes, I'm guilty of being naive, or at least
We're born that
having
way.
been.
Yes.
I was busy with a career in science. I did my PhD with all my heart. I won the Governor General's Gold Medal for it.
Congratulations.
It's
That's an effort and a recognized effort.
We got it evaluated. It's about $5, so don't get too excited.
It's the token and the gesture for all that hard work to get there.
And so I dedicated myself to that. And of course, I made some mistakes in my career. Sometimes I make the wrong decisions and stuff, but nothing to excite the employer, certainly.
Right.
And everything was good. But then at some point, in a state of crisis, you discover things.
Okay.
And once you've seen those things happening, then there's no unseeing it. And for me,
Correct.
that was a realization, which I suspected. I mean, we can talk about what happened before COVID, and it's not very interesting, but there was a progression to it, you know. And in the end, what can you do? You're on your own. You pay your taxes, you know, on your marginal dollar about 50%, and you're not being served with what you should deserve for all that
Mhm.
money, you know, as a citizen. And a lot of people suffer from that, evidently.
Do you think we're going through one right now with this whole tariff thing? Because it's going to cause great destruction and suffering in Canada.
I know it will. I know it will. I had a discussion with a number of Canadian peoples about this. They're very worried in general. But then again, uh, what do you say to someone who's pro war in Ukraine, yet against the tariffs?
No,
How
I
do
know.
you address that? You know, isn't there a contradiction somewhere?
Well, I think what that exposes is they're not original. It's not their original thoughts. They are replicating and parroting somebody else's thoughts, and multiple of them. That's why they don't work. They're not rational. That's why you could be
Right,
like basically
right,
hypocritical because they're not generated from that one mind. They're just parroted, and that
right.
scares me even more because they will say and believe anything. Then there's no level of rationalization going on to even realize they're hypocritical on those 2 points. That's
Yeah.
scarier to me.
Oh, and to me too. What I've observed over the recent years is that, and you heard that many times, so this is repetitive for your audience, but but the critical thinking was just kicked out the door.
Mhm. Yes.
And what I see now from afar, I'm 8,000 and something kilometers away from Canada, thank God. But what I see from what's happening there is completely bonkers.
Yes.
When you have a, I heard it today, when you have your prime minister encouraging the booing of your closest economic partner, the booing of their national anthem, then nothing makes sense to me anymore, you know. And Canada didn't used to be that way. It was the peacekeeper, always with a mind. You know, I remember when Prime Minister Chrétien refused to go to Iraq and commit the troops there with boots on the ground. Some people get killed, blah, blah, blah. Well, he had good intelligence back then from its services, and he thought that maybe Iraq had nothing to do with it. And then what did we see right after the pandemic, the pandemic, whatever you want to call it? Right after, I saw all these Ukrainian flags
Mhm.
flying on Canadian houses, you know, up their poles. And I thought, wow, what a mind capture we're under.
I was disturbed when I went to my, county office for the first time to go do some
Mm.
business there at the county office, and the 3rd pole was a Ukrainian flag. So
Yes, it's disturbing.
that's the reason regional or municipal government, flying the flag. And both my wife and I, we looked at each other like, "Really? Like, really? Like, do you know what you're even supporting with that message?" I probably
Exactly.
not, because if you did, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
So that's kind of more
I
the
remember
ignorance.
the, yeah, you're right. So, sorry, I interrupted. I cut
No,
you
it's
off.
okay. It's okay because
I remember, pardon,
please go.
I remember reading in 2019, you know, articles in The Guardian talking about the Ukraine being the most corrupt country that we know of.
Oh, but
That was,
overnight that went away. Didn't you
yeah,
know?
completely.
First time in
So,
history. Fantastic,
yeah,
really. We gotta replicate that.
yeah. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of people who don't take the time to sit down, reflect on things,
Mm.
gather information, and you remember we were told that's a conspiracy. You shouldn't do your own research, right?
Right.
So basically, you should stop reading books in other ways, or scientific articles, or other things like that. What a suggestion. Well, I guess it was adopted by people, and now we are in the situation we find ourselves in. You know?
Correct. And I kind of saw it coming when they were turning experts into gods. And immediately in a conversation, if you're trying to be critical and using critical thinking, they will
Yeah,
say to you, well, are you the expert? And then shut you down. So you're not even allowed to continue with the conversation unless you come with some degree certifications and some accreditations. That was when I started to get worried. I'm like, wait a minute, free speech didn't come with a qualification of certifications or degrees in the subject matter first. Free
yes,
speech is free speech. So I was worried, and I
yeah,
saw
that's
that
right. Me
happening. It's
too.
clear as day.
Me too. And I can explain something to you. I have a
Please do.
PhD. I did that. I did the stupid PhD. Which was great. I mean, I have I
Good
don't
for the
know
career.
12 theorems in it. I did good. I can do mathematics fairly easily. And when I put some effort, it's even better. So I graduated with a great applause, if you like.
Sure.
And but I know one thing: it was very, very narrow as a topic, extremely narrow. The way we speak tonight, I'm not a specialist about. You understand that? I'm just a normal citizen. But a lot of stupid PhDs, especially in public health, have forgotten that.
Hmm.
You know, you cannot know everything, and Grok doesn't know everything either.
Barely scratching the surface.
So,
No,
so in the end, given the fact that as an individual, I don't know everything, it means I need you, right?
yeah,
I need you to complete my knowledge, and vice versa. That means we need each other. And that means we need free speech to do that. If we don't have free speech, we cannot communicate our ideas so easily anymore. Or maybe we're going to go back to the Russian dissident way with samizdat. I guess you know what that is. You know what the
I don't know that.
samizdat?
I don't know that term. No.
Samizdat? It's when Russians contributed money, dissidents basically contributed money to each other, put it in a pot, and bought a typing machine
Oh,
so
good.
that they,
Okay.
so that they could reproduce the texts of their own dissidents and transmit it to the West.
C'est bon.
That's what a
And that's
samizdat is. Yes, and I don't want to find myself, or any one of my compatriots. I don't know if I have any anymore in Canada, but that's another thing
you
we
got
can
one
discuss
right here, so you're
later
okay.
on. But I wouldn't like to go back to these times. I haven't lived before in these times. Other people did. But now that they're coming to me, because I know history, I don't want this. I really don't. I think it's a mistake not to allow people to speak. I think it's a mistake not to allow even, maybe I'll offend you tonight. I don't know. Maybe I will. I don't know. But do you have a legal case against me if I offended you? Well, in the future, you might have a legal case and prosecute me and put me in jail because,
Oh, I hope
wow,
not.
your feelings were hurt.
Hmm. We're seeing that all over Canada right now, like all
Yes,
over Canada. We're
yes,
seeing not just people's feelings, we're seeing governments and businesses and media using these kind of tools to shut down conversations too. And these are
yes,
supposed to be the thickest skins out there, but they are far from thick skin. They're very thin skinned now. And it's getting down to where I totally agree we need free speech, but we also have to have a common understanding of what truth is and use that as a pillar to this conversation. Because
yes,
you can have people speaking anything, including non-truth. And then having this trust established, I think, is a great way to have that accumulated knowledge that you're talking about. So we can work together. If I
Yeah.
trust you, you trust me, you speak truth, I speak truth, collectively, we can provide some knowledge to more. And that's where
Yeah.
the
So
challenge is too, knowing what that is.
oh, it's a huge challenge, and I will add to your observation, which I think is very correct. But I will add
Thank
to
you.
it. The truth is elusive, to say the least. Not only in science, but in society as well. I don't know if you know about asymptotic functions.
No,
They,
please go.
they these are functions over time or over space that approach a constant, and yet they never attain it. And you have
Always
to work,
pursuing it, kind of thing.
yes, closer and closer and closer, yet never getting it. It's like when you keep dividing a number by two,
That's the first thing in my mind because if you
you
keep
will
dividing
not reach zero, never. You will,
infinite halfness or whatever.
exactly. And the truth is like that a little bit. So we need to keep working to get it.
And for all the
You know,
people listening to this, reverse is true. Infinite doubling, same thing. The
same
scale
thing.
goes both ways.
Same thing.
Um,
Yes.
yeah. No, so
Yes.
thank you. I didn't know the term for that, but I understood the concept behind it.
It's
I have
asymptotic behavior. Yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of things in my head that I kind of just worked out, but I don't know the names, like the actual labels for
Oh,
them.
don't feel picked on. I'm the same.
Oh, I
There's a
I feel
lot of things I
privileged because
don't know about, and I keep learning.
yeah, no, I don't feel a victim at all. I feel privileged because that means I'm able to work things out. I don't have to know about it first. It's a very
Right.
curious mind.
Right.
Just a small example is when I was working back in the technology days, I was creating stuff that later became the cloud. It was called the cloud, but that's
Yes.
not what I was calling it. That's not what I was doing. But I was doing what eventually became the cloud because I found the need, multiple computers sharing the load, having responses, being up, all that kind of stuff. That was just called good networking at that time. Good
Right.
technical networking. Now it's called
Yeah.
the cloud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it because the labels for things means you've gone through an education and you discovered and you come up with the name or learned the name. And I'm really enjoying this conversation because what I want to now kind of wiggle in my head is how do we map this to the government? Is it a perpetual motion machine too? Like, is it always going to go on forever and grinding us through the system? Is that what it's made for? Is there some way to map this to how government functions?
There is. There is.
I
There
thought
is.
so.
First, it doesn't involve the cloud, but it's similar.
Mhm.
I
Maybe some
remember
heads
when
are in the cloud, but it doesn't involve the government.
that's a different topic.
Yeah.
I remember I was young. It was one summer. I was doing my bachelor's of computer science,
Oh, good. You get it then.
and I had a job at my father's company, Cronism, call it that way.
Okay.
And
Nepotism. You got in there.
well, yeah, $5 an hour, and I was working on their IT systems, documenting them and everything else. And I saw how that they're, as a private company, it was a cooperative, but as a company, nonetheless, I saw how the databases were working. And at the time, databases were still in their infancy. It was advanced, but and it was sufficient for the time being. And I was thinking, wow, what if the government could crisscross all these databases that they have in their different computers and just catch everyone doing anything? And the year was 1987. I was already thinking,
87.
yeah,
You were doing like mesh programming in 87 or mesh
no, I
databases.
wasn't doing it. I
But you're
suspected that
thinking
someone
about
in
it.
the future would be doing it.
And relational databases too at that time too. So,
Oh yeah, the
okay.
SQL was there. It existed, or something very similar. And all the normal forms for how you store data in
Hmm.
databases that was known at the time, which creates efficiency. And I was thinking, oh my God, if everything like that is unified, no citizen will have liberty.
You know what? I had a similar thought and I was curious why Oracle was such a large business because all it did was databasing.
And
So that is a
unifying
big
them too.
demand. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Mhm.
Interacting with them. like making connections with them. And that was like all they did. They didn't make GUIs and UIs and apps. They just focused on databases and making
Yes.
them searchable, faster, bigger,
And when you
interconnected.
see and when you see what this is capable of, and I'm talking 40 some odd years ago, now with AI, the problem is not entirely different, but entirely dangerous in the sense that no, I don't think that AI is going to kill you or me or anything like that. But the very moment that we give this thing we call AI decisional power, we'd still have to know why the decisions have been made the way they made from the AI, and that's not an obvious thing to do. And
I
Elon Musk's concerns about AI are quite justified. And given the state in which the world finds itself, I'm afraid that most people will trust AI blindly. Like they trusted lots of things blindly, not to mention some words that you already know about.
There's a bunch. No, and even just narrative blindly they trust. And another concern to this is, well, yes, the decision-making abilities of AI, and we have to get to the point where they can like make choices of the trolley question, those kind of things. But
Yes.
another one that might be a challenge is the persuasive ability of AI,
Oh yeah.
getting humans to do the bad thing, wrong thing, and then you can't
Yeah.
even blame the AI. The human did it. So the
Wow.
persuasiveness of AI to human, that scares
Hmm.
me a lot
That
because
me too.
mass formation psychosis and all these other things, if
Yes.
AI became great at that, it can make us do almost anything. Remember Pokemon Go? That was an experiment on the psyche and technology, and also 4G, I think it was at the time, to see if they can
Hmm.
handle large loads. But that was an experiment, not a game. That was an experiment to see what people would do. And what they ended up doing was walking into streets when it was unsafe, trespassing on property when they're not like, breaking law, and actually getting very desperate to follow a complete fabrication of reality.
Yes.
That's what Pokemon Go was, a complete fabrication of reality. And
Yes. You.
we
You.
saw people die. Like it was
Oh,
quite the experiment.
of course. And if I may interject here, uh,
Please,
my wife is Romanian, right?
I do
We've
now.
been we've been together a long time. We're both sick a little bit. My wife has a back problem,
Sorry.
and I have other problems. Not life threatening, nothing like that. But I hurt most days, so it's okay. I mean, you're getting old, and your body collapses. And I should have stopped that a long time ago. I didn't. Anyway, but I told her, "Look, honey, if every morning we wake up together, and I tell you, oh my God, you look sick, honey.
Hmm.
I don't give you 2 weeks, you'll be in the hospital."
Yeah.
That's the power of the mind. And that's the power of other people's mind on your mind.
I
Think
have
about that.
nothing to dispute it. Oh, I totally agree with that. You got
So,
gaslighting, you got all these other
yeah.
techniques that take advantage of that.
Now, now, 5 years ago, what governments throughout the Western world, mostly throughout the Western world, have done to their population is a psyop like that.
Yes.
I won't talk about what you don't want me to talk tonight, so that's
You
okay. But I
talk
will.
all you want. There is no limits.
Okay, bine. Bine means okay in Romanian. I'm sorry, I've been speaking
Bene.
Romanian for 2 years. Words are just a salad in my head at the moment. But so yeah, so if I have the power over you, like I'm in a couple with you, I'm your wife. Okay, let's say I'm your wife, and I tell you this for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, however long it takes, I'll get you to be sick. So what happened? The government did this to us during the latest crises. Crises, I put that plural because that's the
Plural, yeah.
key. Yeah. And now these, pardon the language, mofos will be able to sit down and relax and have their wine and their tenderloin while AI does it for them, as you suggested. I'm
No,
worried about it.
I'm incredibly worried because the mind is very fragile. And
Yes,
I
it
do
is.
not and I do not think that there's going to be safeguards put in place to protect humans from AI figuring this out, finding out
Mhm.
ways to exploit it. At
Mhm.
first, it's going to be called efficiencies. So it's going to be calling
Of course.
how they make things more efficient. This is why we're doing these studies. And
Yes.
eventually, efficiencies are going to become the norm. And then a tweak of this efficiency to this one, and all of a sudden the whole populace is in the lockstep. So, for example, if in the future they bring out another type of thing that they want to inject into you, they will
Yeah.
know exactly the 5 or 6 steps to get the entire population to do that. And it's not even a guess at the experiment is over. They did the
Yes.
experiment. They've got
Yes.
their results and they now know the procedures and the workflow for this. I believe that to be true
Yes.
because I do think humans ultimately do want to learn, discover, and create something. What that is may not be what everybody wants or agrees on, but that's kind of the process of the human mind, anyways. So they want to create and get something. So I do
Yes.
believe this.
Well, I mean, give me. Suppose I'm evil. I'm evil, very
You
evil.
might be. You could be. Who
You know, I'm
knows? I'm
a
just meeting you.
I'm a mofo of all. And you give me a child. Say I adopt a child
Mhm.
at the age of 1.5. If I really want, do you think I can make this kid a criminal? Yes, I can.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so
Absolutely.
to contrast that at the moment, I want to say that I grew up with a form of indoctrination. Obviously, I was born in '66, at a time when Canada, the US, the Western world was the thing, if you like.
Sure.
And I've learned about freedom of speech, uh, no taxation without representation, all these great concepts that I owe to former generations who have put that in place, especially the Americans with their constitution. And because Canada was a neighbor, kind of implicitly adopted that too.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I grew up like that. And in the recent crises, what I've seen is that everything got inversed, right?
Yep.
Medical ethics changed, right?
Yep.
Ability to speak, freedom of speech changed, and so many other things. The list is long. I don't want to bore your
Well, let
audience.
me throw one in there because I think it helped. It was
Sure,
the
sure.
pursuit to end racism was racism.
Of
So they
course.
flipped racism on its head too.
Well, well, I think their choice of word was also wrong because anti-racism is exactly anti-racism. Yes, you know what
Correct.
I mean?
When I was a young man, I asked my teacher as they were teaching us this, isn't reverse racism still racism? And I
What a
got
good
in
question.
trouble because
What a
that's the
good
way I
question.
saw it at that time. At that time, like, isn't reverse racism
Yes,
still racism? And yeah,
yes,
I got into a bit
yes,
of
it is.
trouble because of my
Yes, it is.
race. I got some extra trouble because it was considered to be insensitive.
Of course. I don't have the right to offend you, so I apologize in advance if I did, or if I will in the future. And that's a huge mistake.
It
If
was
you're
quite the
never
lesson,
offended
though.
in your life, you will never be challenged. You will never learn anything, and you will stand on your positions, and you will be a moron in the end. Life doesn't happen that way, and in a sense, I'm very glad that the wind is turning in the United States, and this has influence in Canada. Of course, it does. It simply does. I mean, we're 10 times smaller than them, and I'm glad that I see all kinds of liberals running around with their hair on fire. I mean, okay, it's time you realize that life doesn't work this way at all. It was very complicated to deal with when I was at the university. This started well before COVID or any other
Right,
crisis
right.
like that. When departments, the one in which I was hired there in 2000 at UWO,
Simpler
and
times.
and
2000.
well, simpler times, different
Yeah.
times, I would say. They were
We just got
complicated.
into the millennium and we thought this was going to be a
Yeah,
big
but
thing. And then,
my
oh,
experience of it was the following, and I'm going to make a point with this.
please.
Uh, Departments my department, the Department of Chemistry, the Department of Physics, the Department of Education, whatever, they had sovereignty over who they hired. And nobody from the administration would show up for a job interview, for example, at that time, in the early 2000s or late 1990s. No, you wouldn't see that. I started to see this in the 2007s, 2006s, 2007s, 2008s. I started seeing that kind of stuff happening. The suit guys, the guys with the suit and stuff, and when you look at his face, and the first time you don't know who he or she is, but you figure it out, and you go, oh well, the administration now is getting to invade the university in terms of departmental independence. They did that. They did that. The university at the time was in the process of becoming top heavy, more administrators than professors, and many more administrators than students. So what you've seen is an inverse pyramid, if you like,
Right.
and it led to professors being subdued, being unable to talk, being unable to direct the departments, and being powerless. We used to have the right to sign passport demands.
Photographs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, as university professors. That was
Mhm.
removed a long time ago.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I think it happened in the early 2000s.
Oh boy,
And,
that
and
was a
so, and
big
so
red flag
what
then.
I'm saying is, what the point I want to make with this is simple. I know I'm taking time. I apologize.
It's your show. You're good.
No, it's your show. But
Sorry, you're my guest. Go ahead.
yes, it came to a point where all of us were powerless.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And we're
Yes.
supposed to be the intellectuals, reflecting on society, technology, mathematics, physics, all these things, publishing in peer reviewed. And for God's sakes, if some journalists find something interesting there, to publish it in a newspaper. Fine, good. No, this doesn't happen like that anymore. We're subjugated completely. I'm not anymore. I'm not a university professor anymore. They fired me. But I've seen what happened. And when I got fired, I can tell you this thing. There was not one colleague who stood up and said, don't fire this guy. Yet I had a good working relationship with everyone there. And as I told you, my employment record was blank. I've been told by people in power at the university, I had some friends there who told me, yeah, no, all is clear. You never had a complaint from any student, any colleague, anything. 21 years. You know?
Hmm.
So, the end result of a top heavy administrative state, including the university, is exactly like that. And who is that going to fuck? Pardon my language. Okay? Is the people who are not in the administration. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're going to swallow the fucking snake. Pardon again. And you're going to
That's just
behave.
Romanian. I got it.
Pardon. And you will have to behave this way. And this was such a revelation for me over all the years when this happened, where you just lose your sovereignty as an individual. And this was something I always suspected. Again, when I was in my early 20s doing my bachelor's, I taught some student colleagues of mine, you are damn lucky you have America as a neighbor, because if you didn't, Canada would be like Turkey. And I was serious.
Wow.
And do you think that's true? Or
I got it.
you know, what if
Well,
we
what?
didn't? What if we didn't have this force for democracy? Oh, it's been corrupted. I understand all this and everything else, but this force next to us, with the longest undefended border, without this influence, do you think we'd be very free in Canada? I
It's
don't
an
know.
excellent question. No, it is an
Yes.
excellent question because what you're describing is the creation and the the building of the administrative state.
Yes,
So
yes,
this
in
is
particular.
yeah, this is when our government was taken over from parliamentary and legislative to administrative, and this was done
Yes,
through
yes, you've
exactly what you talked
seen.
about. The
Yeah,
inversion is exactly what happened,
yeah, and that's something I've learned from your show
and it
and
wasn't
from other
just in
places.
the
But it started with
universities.
your show. It started with your show. You were the first one to give me the sniffing trail to follow. You know.
It happened in police stations. It happened in the legal field. It happened with doctors. It happened with nurses. Everybody that used to be able to sign those passports, they were selected because they were part of society that had something to lose. That's kind of why they had to put their name down. I know this person, and I'm willing to lose my degree or my profession or my, license. That's what the purpose was. It was because the government trusted that you would put your career ahead for this person that you're signing for. Therefore,
Yes.
we trust you. There was a
Yes.
very distinct trust.
That's right.
So when you just mentioned that they took that away from you, right there, the government said, we don't even care about your stuff. Like, we don't even let you vouch for somebody now.
No.
That's how little we respect you. That was a
Even in
big flag.
Yeah, even in job interviews, starting 2007, the
You're right.
farthest I
You're
can
right.
remember.
You're helping me put puzzle pieces together because also what happened at that time was your social media profile became more important than your academic profile.
Uh, yeah,
Think about it,
you could put
because
it that way.
if you said something bad on social media, it doesn't
Okay.
matter if you have 20 papers printed. One comment on social media was enough to end you.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't finish that HR thing. So that's what I mean. Like your social media profile, because they started searching around that time because people
Yes.
had them. The
Yes.
social profile became one of the factors more
Yes.
important than your academic accomplishments.
And how innocent were we to trust LinkedIn and Twitter at
Well,
the
we were
time?
told free speech. Go ahead. This is
Yeah.
private. This is your personal life. Don't worry about it. But that barrier got crossed pretty quick.
Oh my God, unbelievable! And even to this day, I'm very careful with things. Now you have my real name, you know where I live, you know what I do, blah blah blah. But
I know your wife's Romanian and you speak
and
some of
yeah,
it.
yeah, anybody can trace me, but they could before anyway.
Mhm.
The thing that motivated me to do this with you today, well, tonight here because it's late, is is why don't you speak out, Steve? Why don't you
Mm.
say what you have to say with someone who's also very intelligent? So let it out. And it's about time, you know?
Steve, and I appreciate that. And hopefully you're taking it from the position of be the man that you want to see others be. So other people will speak up too because they see you doing it.
Okay. Well, okay. When we speak about courage,
Mm.
yes, 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 sure. But I'm not even trying to convince anybody about uh, uh, what I have to say or the opinions that I hold. I still believe in free speech. I still believe that you should have your ideas, and I still believe that you should tell them to me, even if it offends me. That's very important to me. And I also want the power, or the accidental power, to hurt you when I say what I think without legal repercussions. Because without this, we're all finished. And we're not going to get out of this. We're not going to get out of this without free speech. I mean, what do you have to use to regain free speech in a society that has banned it? What do you have to use? I shudder to think.
No, you're 100% correct because if you can't speak your way out of this, you're going to be in a corner and things are going to get very very primitive, I think, at that stage.
Very primitive.
And what we would like to do is maybe stay less motivated by our primitive instincts and work on our intellectual higher level thinking. But you're 100% correct, and that's why it's targeted, because we don't need free speech protection when everybody agrees on the speech. We need free speech protection when they don't agree on a speech. That's the
Correct.
only time you need to protect speech is when
Yes.
people don't agree with it.
Yes.
So we have to get back to that reality.
Yes.
We have to get back to that reality.
Yes. And a parallel that I can draw here from free speech goes to the rights that you should be having in your own constitution. For example,
Mhm.
they were respected until they were not respected. They were respected until it became difficult to respect them from the point of view of the government.
I like the way you put that. And now we need to kind of wake up from that, because if we do want those protections to be there, we have to understand that it's not protections for Canadians or
No,
for us. It's the
no.
limitations of the government. And we have to understand that the government needs to be limited. And this is kind
Mhm.
of where we kind of circle back to begin this conversation. When we were
Yes,
younger and we were going and waking up, not waking up, but learning what the government is, we were told the entire time to just basically trust it. But what we weren't told is that you need to make sure that your government stays limited and it doesn't cross limits. And you need to understand those boundaries and
right.
ensure that they stayed there. When
Mhm.
we allowed overstepping, tiptoeing, because of course it's human nature to test boundaries. We can't fault the government for testing boundaries. But when they weren't zapped or they didn't get their hands slapped, they didn't learn. And then they just
Right,
kept going. And then
right.
before we all realized it, we're like, how do we get to the point where we have no more boundaries? Well, that's
Yeah, I
how
think,
we were not paying attention and pushing back.
yeah, yeah. We were not paying attention. I'll give you an example of this. It's fairly easy for me, for you, for your audience to understand. Uh, you have all these municipalities with mayors and stuff, and well, you've seen what's happening in Pickering, Ontario, right now. I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Our counselor, Lisa
Wow.
Robinson, she sent me a text. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More
Wow.
stuff is happening.
But the thing is, every regulation that is being voted in any of these municipalities and so on doesn't have an obligatory test whether it's constitutional or not, does it? No,
Not
never.
normally. Normally it's an
No,
application when somebody
no,
recognizes there's a
no,
problem.
no, no. You have to sue to get that.
That's what I mean. Normally it's an application. You have to force it onto them. And that's
Yes,
the default. The default in the government is they're going to do whatever they want. And
yes.
if you think it's even a violation of the Constitution, you have to initiate an application procedure, and then
Hmm.
there's a process where you basically have to prove the government is violating, and then they have a chance to kind of counter to it. But you're right; they don't have a check and balance as one of their first steps. Are we
No,
violating the Constitution? They're
not even the
basically
U.S. has that.
no, because they're basically saying they're the squeaky wheel approach. If someone complains, then we'll do something about it. Otherwise, we're just going to do whatever we
Yeah,
want.
I agree with you. But the squeaky wheel must be fucking rich because otherwise it cannot do anything.
Has to be a good squeak in the right wheel, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. You need money to sue institutions,
Mhm.
whether it's the whether it's a municipality, a university, a government. I mean, just look at the University of Western Ontario. It's got a permanent staff of 50 lawyers. I can only hire one.
Mhm.
What they gonna do with me? Wash the floor with me? No matter what my rights could be or my obligations could be, no difference. It's gonna be like that. So you see, in such a society, why do you think the government is hell bent on making life difficult for the poor only? Simply because they can't defend themselves.
I've heard that so many times. Absolutely. They can't cause the
No,
problem. And
no,
I've had two life lessons that I learned that I'd like to share with people because it might help them.
sure.
Number one, rich people play the game so well that you will never be able to sue them. And let me explain that. They will go take out 50 retainers with the 50 top law firms. And then when you bring your matter to them, they're like, sorry, we have a conflict. We can't take that. They don't even have to have billables, they just have the retainer. And if you have like a wealthy husband, that's what he will do 50 top divorce lawyers. So the wife is struggling. That's one
Yes.
technique. The second lesson I learned, I had this conflict with a wealthy person, and I said, look, but you're wrong. That's not what happened. And they said, it doesn't matter. I don't have to be right. I have to be able to outlast you. That's it.
Yeah, with
I'm
money.
like, oh, yeah, well, that's what he meant. That's what his implication was. I just have to
Yes,
outlast you. The truth
yes,
is not necessary in court. I just have to outlast you.
right.
And he wasn't wrong. He
No,
wasn't
he wasn't
wrong.
wrong. I'm sure he wasn't wrong. And in my personal case, it was the same.
Mhm.
It was the same when came the time to deal with the university. I understood very well how all the system had become uh, the judiciary and the executive branch have become friends. I'm being polite.
I know, because that's why I nodded, like, they're a little bit more than friends. They're friends with
Mhm.
benefits and four children out of wedlock, like, they're more than friends.
Yes, yes, and I'm sorry for the middle class, and I'm especially sorry for the poor people. I know an awful lot of Canadians who would get the hell out of the country,
If
but
they
they
could.
can't.
Yep, yep.
They
I've
can't.
been in that boat too. I looked at that years ago. It's like, it's tough. It's tough to leave. You need money. You need a lot. It's tough to leave.
It's tough to leave. And ask me how much it cost me. It's incredible. I was lucky enough to do it. I was smart with money in my life. Right? Not that I'm rich, but I had a little, and I used it to save my wife and I. Let's go. Let's get out of here. It doesn't make sense anymore. I thought I might be wrong. What do I know what's in the future? But at the moment, that was the right decision. And now that it's been made, I'm going to make
Mhm.
it work. I have made it work. But for a lot of Canadians, that is not even an option. And you will never see that through the statistics of immigration, emigration, simply
Right.
because you get 1.5 million people coming every year and a half, or at least it was for a
Yep.
while. And when you have 200,000 families leaving Canada, you don't see this in the stats because there's no distinction of the point of origin, initial point of origin of all these families. Are they Canadian? Are they Romanian that came to Canada,
Right. It's
stayed
like
30
the last
years?
port.
Yeah, and decided when they smelled tyranny, they decided to go. Just me being here with my wife in Romania, we have welcomed 20 well-established Canadian Romanian families back here. Just me with my wife.
Wow.
I'm not going to name anybody. I don't want to put anybody in trouble, but I certainly can transmit you the list privately. And that's it. This is what's going on. The people who created jobs in Canada, who educated the kids and everything. I mean, I have 10 PhD graduates. I graduated them.